Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hear Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. My name is Adam Portrais, and I'm joined, as always, by Sean Keenan.
Heidi thinks they spent as much on the music on this show as they did on the show itself.
No kidding. And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and boy, aren't those mental hospitals nice places.
Oh, they're lovely. They're well adorned. They have just the best of architecture. I'll tell you that much.
They have
themed.
They have jumpsuits, kind of like Bruce Lee wore in that movie.
Yeah, our new psych ward comes with Game of Death jumpsuits. Come on down. Come be all nutty over here in the psych ward, man. So this week we are going to be talking about FX's brand new show, Legion. And if you didn't know much better or could tell by the marketing, I don't know that many people would know that this was a comic book show or anything, because the only clue that you have in the program is like every once in a while, maybe the word mutant gets dropped, and it rarely got dropped in the advertising. But you see the classic X with the circle around it, the X-Men symbol, if you will. So that
and the O in Legion.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Yeah. So you see that. That's about it. That's the most hint that you get that this is a comic book sort of thing. And, like, even my dad, who was, like, Captain, comic book from back in the day and everything, was just like, this is based on a comic. I'm like, listen to the podcast. Bruce will tell all, as he normally does. I'm just like, that's like, I told him, I was like, this is so nice that I don't have to worry about this kind of thing, because it's the puppeteering that the kid does behind the scenes that nobody knows about. And I'm just like, without him, the ship could not float. It just wouldn't.
And I'm going to show my hand just a tiny little bit here before we get going, but this is based on a comic less than Gotham is. So I'll put it in those terms.
So, but hey, it's based on something, and it's got to do with the X-Men universe, and there's Marvel on the front of the darn thing when it comes on the air. So if that don't tell you all you need to know, you sure as heck know that we're going to be covering that stuff, boy, because you know what? That's what we do on this program. We cover it all, man. And we cover it all thanks to guys like you that go on down to patreon.com/HMP. Thank you to all the patrons who help out this show, keep us afloat and everything, man. We'll mention a little bit of Patreon stuff towards the end of the show, but we've got some things coming down the line for you. Do not worry. Things are going to be good. But we're super excited with that. Now, I just want to tell other people that for those of you that have been following, Nerd Talk Now will be on next week. Don't worry. I got you. I just want to put that right at the front of the show, because everybody's going, no, he's not doing the thing that he said he was going to do. Don't worry. We're cool. But
so you two guys, it's coming. Yeah,
the two of you that are looking forward to it. The rest of the people that are like, what's he talking about? Who is this guy and why does he keep talking? You can sally forth. You'll be fine. But the rest of you, don't you worry.
That's a great comic strip, by the way.
Can't wait till they make that movie and we get to cover it.
Listen, don't put in the world that we're living in right now. Don't put that past anybody.
In the world of the emoji movie.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart's playing a poop emoji, and we're going, they're gonna make a fourth comic book movie? Yeah, probably. Probably.
Take McNamara first.
Ooh, I'm waiting for some Beetle Bailey myself. That's just Rex Morgan. No one wants any of those things. But we before we get the show going here and everything, because I think we're going to have a very, very interesting program on our hands here. We'd like to thank the people over at Audible for helping support this show, man. We really appreciate those guys. And if you go down to audible.com/try now, you can get yourself 30 days free trial there of Audible. Download a book of your choice. Listen to it to your heart's content. And I promise you that you're going to be so excited by having that new knowledge coming to your ears that you're going to want to keep on there. But if you don't, man, that's the awesome part, is with those guys, if you cancel out, you still get to keep that book no matter what. It is ridiculously simple. And you know what? I hear tell that there's a new audiobook coming down the pipe. Bruce, would you know anything about them?
Oh, it's not coming down the pipe. It has got it plugged right up because it's there. People can can download Dragon in the Needles from Audible anytime they want. It is available, and Audible is far and away the best place to get your audiobooks, because do you guys want to know a trade secret, a little inside industry information from the publishing of audiobooks?
Give us the
Everybody buys their audiobooks from Audible. So like if you go to iTunes and you buy the audiobook, they're buying it from Audible, charging you $2 more. So just, cut out as many middlemen as possible. The next best thing to sitting in my kitchen and letting me tell you a story is buying Dragon in the Needles through Audible, or even better yet, don't buy it. Get it for free, because they can do that, right, Adam?
Exactly. If you go to audible.com/try it now, you can download Dragon in the Needles for free, everybody, for free for that first month there and everything. Completely awesome. You and I both know that you can't get enough Bruce Leslie in your life, no matter how hard you try. You can play all the podcasts.
Let me ask you
over
this.
and over.
What's the price tag on having Bruce actually read it in my kitchen?
No, you have to come to my kitchen. In which case,
I've got to go to yours.
I'll give you $20. That's all I can afford right now.
You'll give me $20.
That won't even cover your gas, people. Come on. So why don't you go down to audible.com/try now. Listen to Bruce's book. I'm glad it's there because it's the only way that I'm going to read the book, if we're going to be frank about it. We all know how I am. So now I'll actually be able to enjoy Bruce's book, because Lord knows I'm not gonna read ink on paper. Heck no.
I believe your first response when Bruce said he was writing a book, you went, "A book?"
Now, I didn't do this, Sean, but I wanted to put a pull quote from you on it, like totally fictional. I just wanted to put, it's a book. It has words and everything, from Sean Keenan, Hero Movie Podcast. But maybe I'll do that for my next book.
Okay.
I want the quote for me. I swear, I'll listen to the audiobook when it happens.
I like that one too. It might not be too late for me to go back and redesign that cover.
Why not? You have plenty of time. But if you want to listen to that, audible.com/try now. We thank Audible for their help out with keeping this show afloat and everything. Let's get into it, everybody. Here is a trailer for Legion.
Just tell me what happened next.
Look, I don't know. It's fuzzy.
You went off your medication.
Wake up.
Why?
We're just looking for the truth. Which you promised to tell.
I told you they took her.
Sydney Barrett, the girl who disappeared.
She didn't disappear. She took my place, and I took hers.
Wait, what?
It was her power, I think.
Can you explain that?
So is he crazy, or? Continue. He believes he's mentally ill. But he may be the most powerful mutant we've ever encountered.
Can we take a break? Please?
Of course. Let's take a break. Stop. We can skip that part. Unless you think it's relevant to...
No, I mean, we don't have to.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Look at me. I know what I am.
What's that?
All right, that was a trailer for Legion. We're going to be reviewing the first 2 episodes. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. And boy, if this isn't a humdinger, this synopsis is going to be a humdinger. This one's actually provided by FX. Thanks, FX, for the homework assignment. Legion, based on Marvel comic books by Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz, is the story of Dan Heller, played by Dan Stevens, a troubled young man who may be more than human. Diagnosed as a schizophrenic as a child, David has been in and out of psychiatric hospitals for years. Now in his early 20s and free once again, David loses himself in the rhythm of structured regimen of the daily life of breakfast, lunch, dinner, therapy, medications, sleep. David spends the rest of his time in contemplation silence alongside his chatterbox friend Shannon, Aubrey Plaza, a fellow patient whose lifelong and alcohol addiction has done nothing to quell her boundless optimism that her luck is about to change. The pleasant numbness of David's routine is completely upended with the arrival of a beautiful and troubled new patient named Sid, played by Rachel Keller. Inexplicably drawn to one another, David and Sid share a startling encounter together, after which David must confront the shocking possibility that the voices he hears and the visions he's had may actually be real. Now, this was, as he kind of said here, this was a movie that or a television program, rather, that I had heard of Legion before. I'd never really read a book or anything. So, Bruce, what is the comic book connection here, sir?
Well, Legion, also known as David Charles Haller, was created by Chris Claremont for New Mutants in 1985. And 1985 was a prime Bruce mutant comic book year, so I'm a little bit familiar with the early days of this character. Now, one thing I'll point out about him is he had kind of what I would call a 3 feet high and rising haircut like Kid or maybe it was Play. Either way, you get the picture. Kid and or Play had that haircut.
It's Kid, damn it, it's Kid.
Well, so did Legion. Legion is the son of Professor X and a former psychiatric patient under his care named Gabrielle Haller. And yes, you heard that right. In an effort to continually prove how absolutely devoid of ethics he is, Professor X knocked boots with a mental patient that he was supposed to be caring for. I guess he cared just a little too much, if you get my drift. Now, the product of that ethically challenged union was a boy named David, who, of course, grew up to be nuttier than an outhouse rat. Now, specifically, he suffered from dissociative identity disorder, a condition that Claremont knew better as multiple personalities. That mental condition is the reason for David's code name, Legion. And if I know Adam, I know that he loves his Gospels. Mm-hmm. And in the book of Mark, there is this fellow who was possessed by like 1,000 demons or something. And when Jesus asks what his name is, the answer is, "My name is Legion, for we are many." So some movies and books, and of course X-Men comics, have really milked that paragraph or so of the Bible for all it's worth. Now, when he was very young, David was among the victims of a terrorist attack in which he was the only survivor. The trauma of the situation caused David to manifest his mutant powers, and in the process, he incinerated the minds of the terrorists. He also absorbed the mind of the terrorist leader, Jamel Karami, into his own. He also absorbed a few other minds along the way, and eventually each of his personalities had control of a different aspect of his immense mutant psionic powers. Now, the character in the comic is probably less like the one on the FX show and more like James McAvoy's character in Split, which in some slightly off-center way kind of closes the circle with Legion being Charles's son and all. Now, one time, David thought that he was cured of his dissociative identity disorder and decided to celebrate by killing Magneto. Now, for those of you who aren't in the know, one does not simply kill Magneto. So Legion's plans went to crap faster than a truck stop burrito, and he wound up killing his father, Professor X, instead, and in the process setting off the Age of Apocalypse timeline. Now, in order to set things right, Bishop, of all people, had to go back in time and kill Legion. Now, sometime later, Legion was discovered alive and trapped in a concrete box. How did that happen? Who knows? Nobody cared enough to explain it to me, and I'm darn sure not asking. I'm pretty sure at one point Legion tried to cure himself with a doll. I don't really know how that worked out for him. Oh, yeah. It also turns out Bishop didn't really kill Legion. Instead, Legion absorbed Bishop into his crowded retinue of personalities. And in a battle against a bunch of super tough Nimrod Sentinels, Professor X dropped his son out of an airplane like a nuclear bomb, and it worked. The Sentinels were destroyed. Now, about 4 or so years ago, during the Avengers versus X-Men storyline, David gained a great amount of control over his powers by constructing a prison in his mind and locking away many of his sub-personalities, while he would then use gloves that had needles on them to stick in his head and drain out the personality. However, when Cyclops became possessed by the Phoenix Force, he killed Professor X, and the mental shock caused Legion to lose control and free all of those evil personalities. In the final issue of X-Men Legacy, Legion managed to reach the full extent of his powers, and he decided to use it to actually erase himself from existence by making it so that he had never been born. And I'm not going to say that I don't like the guy, but I'd be lying if I said I missed him.
Now, I think I realize one of the reasons I'm not really aware of the book It's really going to be because of the artist. Bill, I'm sorry, but he's one of the artists that I hate his art. I think it's terrible. Like, and the bad part is that like his work varies a whole bunch. Because like you can see some stuff that he does that's unbelievably good and unbelievably awful. There's not a lot in between.
And I've got some of his signed prints, but on the other hand, there's some stuff I agree with you that isn't my cup of tea.
It's just like, why does one eye need to be a pinhole and the other one be as big as a saucer? I don't know.
And if you like look at the covers to Legion Quest, I think was the story arc, the way that he draws Legion, the way that a lot of the New Mutants were drawn just turned me off.
Yeah. It's that whole era of where he was just like, I don't know. I never cared for his stuff. And, even with somebody like Claremont, who I tend to like more than I dislike, it's like, no, I'm good.
Did Sienkiewicz draw Legacy?
I don't know if he drew Legacy, but I do know he did a lot of the Legion Quest and also like the first appearance where Legion kind of shows up and the New Mutants had, I think his name was Warlock, maybe not to be confused with Adam Warlock, but this mutant that was almost incorporeal and just looked like pixels floating around in the air. There's just a lot of
crazy black robot.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just didn't work for me stylistically, and it's something that doesn't come down, in my opinion, to the artist's skill, but just the choices that they made to go with for the look of the book to maybe try to jumpstart the extreme 90s 5 years earlier,
I wasn't a big fan of Legion when he was fighting the X-Force and New Mutants and stuff, but I did really enjoy Legacy. I thought that was a really good book.
I don't know. When you get Bishop involved, I'm kind of like, all right.
He's not in. Bishop isn't in. Legacy.
He's not in that one. Good. Then
it's a much smaller. It's a much smaller book. Actually, it's about. It's basically about him coming to terms with who he is, and he's not necessarily a villain at this point. It was really good.
So yeah, man. So we're reviewing the first 2 episodes of this series. The trailers were very interesting, very kind of arty. They didn't really tell a whole bunch of story per se. There were like a lot of cool kind of, I don't want to say bullet timey per se, but very, high frame rate shots and everything to where you see stuff kind of exploding in a room and whatnot, or like a baby floating and stuff. So there's a lot of like really kind of mind trippy sort of stuff for the advertising.
And I think a lot of the trailers led me to believe this was going to be kind of a period piece around the same time as X-Men First Class.
Well, because that's kind of what they're trying to do, is they're trying to show you that there's no real timeline here, that there's no date.
Yeah. Similar to what they've done quite well on Gotham, where everybody drives a 79 Chevy Impala, but they all have cell phones, but the cell phones are flip phones. It's like real inconsistent with the timeline intentionally.
Now, the Legion showrunner, Noah Haley, has pretty much said behind this that was a lot of his idea. The whole show, this is a quote from him, the whole show is not the world, it's David's experience of the world. He's piecing his world together from nostalgia and memory of the world that becomes that. So it's a lot of, so who knows when this is? I mean, that's an interesting thing because you see some of the, like, it seems very 60s and 70s in its style in a lot of senses, whereas, and then you'll see somebody with something that maybe, like, I think in the interrogation, it kind of looks like he's using something iPad-esque, some sort of tablet, if you will.
Yep.
So there's things like that, and in military
and there's
gear
a functional MRI, which kind of dates it for medical professionals.
Yeah.
To make it relatively recent.
But then everybody's dressed like it's Logan's Run.
This is true.
Yeah.
Now, Bruce, that MRI, did it kill you that it was as quiet as it was?
You know what? I had bigger fish to be frying at that point.
I could sit back and you could just go like, Bruce is because my mom works in the medical field and stuff, and I've seen these machines in the offices with which they've operated, and I'm just like, I'm seeing at least a couple, and I don't really know a whole lot about it. I'm seeing a couple of inaccuracies. I'm like, Bruce is just going to be chomping at the bit on this one, but no. So
I was far more annoyed by the fact that he was continually talking and moving, and the guy waited so long to yell at him.
Yeah, that was a big
he
no-no.
pointed out, don't sneeze, but never mind the fact that the guy's doing his best neurotic existential crisis in the MRI, moving right and left.
Head's kind of
all
going back
around,
and forth.
ruining the quality of the image, which doesn't at all align with the little cartoon they had drawn on the screen that the guy was watching.
Yeah. And they look so much better than that. I don't know. That's just me. But so now this show, it's tough to really kind of explain it because it is all over the map. We're looking at a lot of different kind of timelines in a way.
Well, I've got some pretty good explanation for it after we get into it a little bit, because I think there would be a much better suited Marvel character for this show than Legion is, but I don't want to show all of my hand just yet. But I guess I would just start off by saying that I really like the way they introduced us to Legion. You know, we see the kid, we get to see him growing up. He's in the back of the police car and blows the windows out. But would it have killed him to give us at least one little shot of him with an eraser head haircut?
He could have done that in like the 7th grade or something.
Bruce, I legitimately think they're saving that.
You think we are going to get to see that?
I think eventually, if the show is able to move on, I think that that's probably going to happen.
Because that actor, he is really built for subtle comedy, I believe. Now, I'm not familiar with him. I know he's the Beast, I think, and Beauty and the Beast that's coming up. So maybe he'll be this generation's Ron Perlman. But him with that haircut is going to just have to be played for humor value. No other way.
Well, Okay, let me start from the beginning with this, because I love the show. This show was
shocking.
This show was built for me. It feels like they go for it. Like, they really take huge swings on the show, and they're not always successful. And to me, that's the most entertaining thing you can watch. You know, they're not accurate with a lot of things, and for me. All right, let's start from the beginning. Okay. So the character there, it seems like they want David. They want you to believe that David is mostly a good person. However, every time that he has a chance to be villainous, he goes for it.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah,
I love that about this character. I love it. And so I think that it's just a matter of time. Probably if there's a season 2. Episode 1, season 2, he's going to have that hair. We're going to see him with that hair, is my guess. Either that or
I'm picturing like an outtake from Beekman's World, too, with him and that hair.
Or we go classical cliffhanger where something traumatic happens and he comes out of the rubble and he's got that hair. Like something along those lines. I could totally see that happening with this. Now, in full disclosure, Noah Hawley? Yeah. Noah Hawley. I am a massive fan of this guy, because there was no one could possibly get me to watch a show based on the movie Fargo. That was never going to happen. There was no way they were even going to come remotely close.
It sounds like the worst idea ever.
And it's such a great show. That it's one of my favorite shows on TV, Fargo is. And
as a rule, I check out every show that has at least one designing woman in it. So I checked out Fargo.
Well, and also that's why I watch Legion.
Yeah.
It's the same designing woman, but I love her.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Jean Smart?
Jean Smart's awesome.
For God's sake.
I like Annie Potts good too, but you can't beat Jean Smart.
No.
So there's so much about the show that I love, and I mean absolutely adore. The script itself, they try trickery. There's film tricks in it, which I love. I love when you see stuff like that. The production design on this show is fantastic, and when I say fantastic, I don't mean it's the best production design ever done. The dude is taking these massive swings when you watch the show, where sometimes it fails miserably, sometimes it's amazing. I think that the psychiatric ward, that is the most posh, lovely psychiatric ward you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, there's something so entertaining about being in there, and it's not a super bummer, and we're in there for most of the pilot. So and there's just so many neat little things, like you're out of time, like there's time displacement happening with this, where is this in the future, is it in the past, is it present day? And the other thing is that the production designer, I don't know if this is with the grace of Noah Hawley or whatever, keeps slipping X's into everything in this show.
Now, I'm going to give just a little bit of a devil's advocate here to this, though, because I didn't enjoy this as much as you. Though I think it's well done, there's some reasons I didn't enjoy it. Much like a couple of weeks ago when I said I can appreciate that Twin Peaks is well done, but sometimes I think that the non-linear storytelling, I think that the confusion, the intentional confusion, the potentially unreliable narrator, sometimes I think those are all just distractions to keep us away from the fact that perhaps they don't have a real focused narrative here, at least not just yet.
Well, I think that you're, that is a distinct possibility. But knowing Noah Hawley like I do, I think that it's going to come out in the wash later. Like when you read a really well done graphic novel, you're reading it and you're like, I have literally no idea what's happening right now. And then the thing I'm thinking about very specifically right now is Grendel Warchild. Have you ever read that book?
I have not.
Mm.
It starts off, you literally have no idea what's happening when you're reading it. And about halfway through it, it all becomes clear. Oh, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what's happening there.
Well, I want to carry that analogy just a little bit further then, because if I'm buying an ongoing series and I'm getting one issue a month, and like Warren Ellis doing Karnak recently, way behind schedule. By the time issue 3 comes out, I've forgotten what's in issue 1 and 2, and I'm just dropping off of that. Now, if I pick that up as a trade paperback and read it all at once, I'm likely to enjoy it, but there's a lot of stuff that I'll just drop off as an ongoing single issues if I don't feel like they've got a grasp on the narrative or they're just trying to fluff up more of a story than they have. This is the sort of show I think I would like better if it was released to Netflix, all 10 episodes, because it's only 10 episodes, right?
It's 8.
8 episodes. So I really think I would probably like this better and it feels like it's made with the idea that it's going to be binge watched, because it doesn't really have much in the way of traditional episode structure. The episodes really do feel like part of a longer product rather than something that you would tune in each week.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. One of the big things, though, is that I just think that you're absolutely right. This is more of a kind of a bingey sort of thing, because I can definitely see, because I waited until the first 2 episodes were out, and then I watched them back to back, and yeah, I could definitely see waiting a week and then just going, wait a minute, what were we talking about previously? You almost will have to go back and watch last week's episode to catch up to do it properly. But I think these guys are really going to be on board with this. I mean, look at the executive producers for this thing, man. This is a murderer's row of amazing people. You got Simon Kinberg, Jeff Loeb, Laura Shula Donner, Brian Singer, Stan Lee executive produces 2 episodes, as does Joe Quesada. They're putting a lot of weight behind this thing. So I think they really have the gusto to really get this thing and moving, and if it stays as interesting as it does, I think we may see a second season with hopefully more episodes.
It has the feeling like it deserves a second season, even if I don't enjoy it. I mean, it's a well-made show. The actors are absolutely outstanding for the most part. When it comes to the acting, I don't know that I would call it a miscue, but something that's glaring is, in my opinion, the actress that plays Sid. Her performance is just blown out of the water by Aubrey Plaza, who has quickly become my favorite character on the show.
Oh, I totally disagree with you, Bruce.
Really? I want to hear this.
Because I think that Rachel Keller is great on this show. Her role is just a lot harder than Aubrey Plaza's role. Aubrey Plaza has the easiest job in the world on this show. Oh, yeah.
She's going to the back of the theater.
Yeah. Whereas Rachel Keller has to be a little bit crazy.
Now let's slow down here and think about some of my favorite performances from other things we've reviewed. Now is it a surprise to you that my favorite character is the one playing to the person sitting on the bus bench across the street from the theater?
No,
that's the performance I like.
Of course.
And I don't know how much you guys know about the behind the scenes, but the character Lenny. Aubrey Plaza's character's name is Lenny. Mm-hmm. Lenny was originally like a 60-year-old man in the script. Hawley decided, he kind of met Plaza and decided he wanted her in that role, but she said she would only take it on the condition they not change a single letter of her dialogue. So everything that she's saying was written for a middle-aged man. And knowing that when you watch it makes me have a little extra chuckle at it. But that is my favorite character. Some of it's behind the scenes issues, the idea that they've totally changed the actor that they've cast, but not changed the way that she's written. And you look back at some of the things she says in the first 2 episodes, and it makes more sense.
Totally.
I like that, and
The
we'll
fact
rewatch
that
with that
there's
in
no
mind.
romantic tension built between her and Legion makes a little more sense because
I like that though.
I
enjoy-
love that too.
Mhm.
But I was giving the writers maybe too much credit for that until I found out, no, this is an old man.
He used to be an old dude.
I
And
do
then
got to give the writers credit on the fact that the Rachel Keller character's name is Sid Barrett, and we first see her in a mental hospital. That's pretty amazing.
I'm not
illuminate for the
Yeah.
listener. Obviously I know exactly what you're talking about, but let the listeners know.
sure. Inform the dummies out there, Sean.
Sid Barrett is the original lead singer of Pink Floyd, and he went nuts and had to drop out of the band. And the song "Wish You Were Here" is about Sid Barrett.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I'm glad I didn't want to step on your toes by explaining that for everyone, so I'm glad you did it.
Sometimes I need to take a nap, and I'll listen to a little Floyd. You know how it is.
But no, I'm not impressed with Keller's performance. I don't think the character's terribly interesting to me. Maybe there was some potential for it to be interesting, and
How
it
dare
just
you?
lost me.
How dare you? Oh, but keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like, okay, we can't have the Joker, so we're gonna have Jerome on Gotham. Well, we can't have Rogue, so let's have not quite Rogue here.
Okay, well let's step that back for a second,
Yeah.
because obviously with what we kind of know doesn't like to be touched. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, a very rogue-like sort of power, but we see something that's a little bit beyond that, so to speak. What do we think her actual sort of power is per se at this point? Because I don't know that it's been truly defined for us.
She switches places with people, man.
That's just it.
Yeah,
It's
she
Freaky
switches
Friday.
places.
She has Freaky Friday power.
I mean,
Only it's on some double level, like it's the physical appearance of the two switch. Their minds don't switch Freaky Friday style. The bodies switch. The minds stay the same, and then after a while it wears off. Because if it was Freaky Friday style mind switch, they still would have had David instead of it turning into Sid once she gets in the car.
That's right. It's like father, like son.
right.
yeah.
I'm just. I just wonder if there's
It's
more to her
Face
that
Off,
we
guys,
have.
Face Off.
Yeah, it's
It's
face off.
vice versa.
18 again.
Dear Hollywood, why don't you come up with another one of these?
Big.
It's been 5 years. Why don't we do more?
And it's got a little Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. problem, which I didn't think this show would have. But you get the feeling like, okay, you've got the right to one character and one character only. So you have to come up with third-rate characters to put around them, because Mara McTaggart is who Jean Smart should be.
Oh, I totally agree with you. You're right.
And it's totally got this problem that has annoyed me for a long time. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has finally been given permission to use some characters, some real characters, instead of making up characters who we know that's what they mean for them to be.
Here's Razor McButtface.
And I don't know, because there are no less than 750,000 X-Men that are never going to be in a movie. Give them some legitimate characters here to use.
I agree with you, man. That's a good point. But man, I love this show. I love this show so much.
And that speaks to the show a lot, that you like it so much. And like I said before, I love most of the acting. I love the way it's shot. The sound, the sound, the music, and the score on every level, it sounds good. I think that they're trying to do something creative and not passe, and I feel like I'm punishing them for that a little bit. But I'll honestly say that this is a show that I will give technical praise to, but it's just not my cup of tea. Sometimes when you start to dive a little bit too deep into communicating what it's like to suffer from a mental illness, that makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't always like that. The decision they made to go with schizophrenia rather than dissociative identity disorder, I guess makes sense, in a way, but it also takes away some of the potential fun you could have. But they don't want superpowered United States of Terra on their hands.
Yeah. But, and I will say this, you mentioned sound and stuff.
But the name makes no sense. The name Legion makes no sense if he doesn't have multiple personalities, and maybe he will by the end of the season. I don't know.
You don't know. Who's to
I
say?
think that there's another turn coming probably halfway through, like probably in the second act of this season, because it feels like that's how they're going to flip things around. You know what I'm saying here? Yeah. And I also kind of feel like two episodes in,
the way that they're trying to do this show, I should still be saying, well, maybe he doesn't really have telekinesis. Maybe he's just so mentally damaged that he thinks he has. Like, there should be just enough making me question it that isn't there.
I think that they're going to go a different route with the questioning, where I think that what they're going to do is they're going to make you wonder how insane this character is.
Or if he can just hold on to, what little bit he has, and keep it together, because he seems like a character that, if he doesn't get a hold of everything and is able to kind of channel everything that he's got, that it could just go haywire and really, really bad.
And let me put it to you this way, Bruce. If by the end of this season we're still in the exact same spot that we are at the end of episode 2, then I will give up on this show. But my hope is by episode 8 of this season, we're going to see something where he goes full bad guy. And that would be great.
And that's the only thing that I want to see out of Legion. Now, something that's a superficial change, but I think rather than change everything about Legion to give us the story that Holly wants to give us, I think it'd be easier just instead of Legion, the only thing they would have to do is change the central character's name. Almost everything else works. He could really tell the story that I feel like he's wanting to tell. I would be buying into it and find it far more interesting if instead of Dave Haller, it was Mark Spector, because this is the Moon Knight story that Jeff Lemire is currently writing for Marvel that we're seeing on the screen here.
Now, I could be wrong, but doesn't Marvel Studios proper own Moon Knight?
Yes, they do, but Marvel Studios proper is co-oping on this.
Well,
because I don't think that Fox clearly owned the TV rights. That was a big thing of contention. Fox announced they were going to make a show, and then they got a little Ike Perlmutter, or it wouldn't be him at this point, but they got a little letter that said, hold on. You don't exactly have the TV rights. You don't exactly not have them. It was one of those weird things where it sort of takes both parties to agree. Like, Marvel couldn't make a show without Fox. Fox couldn't make the show without Marvel, but as long as they agree, then the TV show goes forward.
We're launching missiles on a sub, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't care, man. Make this show Moon Knight. Make this show Moon Knight, and I'm so much more into it.
Do you guys know James Gunn pitched a Moon Knight movie to Marvel?
Probably would have been good.
Before Guardians of the Galaxy?
Well, I think between 1 and 2. He's just like they liked it, but it's just like he's like, I can't do it because I'm he's got commitments that he's got to take care of. But he's like, here's the story. He's like, I love Moon Knight, big Moon Knight fan. He pitched a story and everything. So who's to say?
Here's my wish list. My wish list would be take Moon Knight, don't make it a movie, give it 10 episodes on Netflix, bring Holly on to run it just like he's running this one with a few tweaks to fit the character. Moon Knight's kind of a loner character anyway, so you don't really need any other Marvel characters in his story to make it believable other than, Moon Knight supporting characters like Frenchie. The whole idea, I mean, when you're reading this current run, it's so brilliant because I really don't know if Moon Knight is really even exists or if it's totally this delusion in Mark Spector's mind. And Mark Spector has more of a blend of dissociative identity disorder and schizophrenia than I ever saw Legion having. So I could see this storyline working so well for me with Moon Knight.
If somebody
you take away the telekinesis, but that also makes it more interesting because when all of a sudden it's more of a Batman style superhero, you're getting into Birdman territory. I think it could be really good.
But then you also miss out on the really, really awesome set pieces where David is making everything fly around him.
Well, but if you read the Moon Knight comic, in the middle of nowhere, the whole city turns into Egypt with a pyramid and sand everywhere, and you don't know if this is the power of Khonshu taking him to Egypt or if he's imagining. I mean, Moon Knight's got a god, an Egyptian god that gets involved. He wants to take down Anubis. He's the vessel of Khonshu, or he's really nuts. Uh-huh. And it just plays, that balance plays for me better than Legion is playing for me.
Well, let me ask you this, Bruce. Where's Jean Smart in the Moon Knight comic book?
Oh, she could be all over the place. She could be all over the place. There's a lady that runs a diner that she would be perfect to be that lady.
All right. I'll give that to you.
She's the flow of Moon Knight.
Or you know what? Nothing. What's her name here? Dr. Eller or something? Nothing says Dr. Eller couldn't be in Moon Knight. She's not in anywhere in the comics, so you can put Jean Smart wherever you want.
Well, Jean Smart plays Dr. Melanie Bird.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Bird. So I had a genetics professor named Dr. Bird. But anyway, she could be Dr. Bird in Moon Knight for all I care.
So to get back to the show, Mackenzie Gray, the weird looking guy who is with the bad government agency.
Oh, the curly haired dude.
Yeah, that dude is playing somebody named the Eye. And the part I don't understand is the Eye part of X-Men canon?
I don't think so.
No, so he's a newly created character?
And I'm also disappointed William Catt didn't get that role.
Man, you're not kidding. How great would William Catt be in that?
William Catt's not flashy enough for me, baby.
I honestly don't believe anybody beyond Legion has appeared in a comic that we've seen so far in the show. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Legion is the sole character they have a license to use in this show.
Interesting. So there could actually be characters that come out of this show to go into different things.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, Holly was really talking up, oh, yeah, Professor X will eventually show up. And then he backpedaled real fast on that, I think, after the people, the lawyer types talked to him.
Whoops, didn't clear that with legal.
I do like that they went to great lengths not to show his father's face so that, maybe they can say, he's that professor that everyone talks about.
Wink,
Get as
wink.
close to saying Professor X as possible.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah,
He's the professor that
Kinda
comes
like
before Y.
that weird dance they did at the beginning of Supergirl, where like, hey, the big guy and all that.
Yeah, before season 2, they just said, you know what? We've got full license. Let's just have the guy show up.
Yeah, there's sometimes when they have those full licenses where they don't, where it's just like, why are you messing around, bro?
Yeah, like in Smallville, they never called him Superboy or Superman. They called him the Red Blue Blur.
It's just called, just own it, man. Just own it. You got it. You're free to do it. No one's holding you back.
Yeah.
Gee whiz.
But anyway, I'm giving the show a harder time than it deserves. But part of it's just because I wasn't in the mood to watch this show this week,
Whereas Bruce, it's so funny that we've literally switched roles. I'm usually that, man, I don't like it.
but I look at it and I know there are people that are going to love it. I know that it's well made. I've seen things that have been done so much worse than this that I actually was able to enjoy. So I respect it. I'm glad it's out there for the people that like it. It's just not communicating with me, and I'm a little worried that it's going to have that Twin Peaks phenomenon where if it does get a season 2, there's not going to be anything left in the tank.
And
I think that if this thing goes to Netflix or whatever streaming service, and it catches on, I think this thing is going to explode if people see it in the right way.
yeah, it's interesting.
It just has that feeling.
FX is like, well, Fox in general has a long history of like either keeping a show on forever or killing it before it catches on proper.
Well, what you're talking about here is the difference between Fox and FX. The only show I can ever think of that FX let go too quickly is Terriers. But every other show they have given so much leeway to.
Yeah, well, they tend to lean a little bit more on the lenient side, but yeah, Terriers was the one that came to mind for me. There was one I can't. My brain is crapping out on me, but it's. I'm hoping they at least deserve 3 seasons out of this thing. I think you can easily do that. But
here's the biggest bright spot for me about this on FX. FX is the channel, the network that's in development with Y the Last Man, and it looks like they are they are not being cheap on the budget. You know what I mean? This shows that it's being made with care. They'd rather have fewer episodes and higher quality per episode in terms of budget. It's cast excellently. The shots look beautiful, great cinematography, great special effects, beautiful sound, like I've already said. So all those production values being so high on Legion, which I'm sorry, but I can snap my fingers twice and find 50 people that love Y the Last Man for every one who's heard of Legion, so it encourages me that a lot of love is going to be poured into Y the Last Man.
True, and I really hope that's true. And but yeah, they it looks like they're definitely not sparing a lot of expenses on this, and that's what also makes me think they're easily going to hit a season 2 with this because it feels like they put so much into it, you know? Mm-hmm. It feels like they kind of need to get that. And I think they would be smarter to lean a little bit more X-Men in their advertising. I think that may help get people over. Because
I think they're really trying to make that a surprise.
And I think also something that you touched on that would really make me like this show better, Sean, is if David starts to become a little bit more sinister and a little bit less like, I don't know, like something about Mary. You know what I mean? Like the neuroses is just being laid on a little bit too close to Ben Stiller territory at times.
That's funny, man, because the thing I closest relate this character to, the way that he's portrayed right now, is like Ted on How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I would go with that too. The neurosis is being laid on just a little too thick. You show me a sinister grin, like that moment when he's just got that sinister grin on his face and like blows up the police car or whatever as a teenager. I would like to see a little bit of that dangerous side of him.
Or when he figures out that they're afraid of him when they're interrogating him in the room, and he gets that look on his face. That's when this character's at its best.
I think Sean's right. I think that's the peppering that we need throughout this. So then when it kind of happens, then it's like, well, it didn't come out of nowhere, but at the same time, you're not smacking us in the face with it from the get-of-go.
But also, when a week comes between episodes, maybe in the last 2 minutes of episode 1, you give me a glimpse of it. So I tune in for episode 2, and then he's back to normal a little bit. And then you remind me a little bit before he goes full on evil. But you got to pretty early on in something where I'm not committed to watch more than one episode of this. You know, if I'm just your casual fan, you got to give me something in that pilot that makes me understand that this character has 2 speeds. He's either totally neurotic and anxiety ridden, or he is absolutely in control of his environment, and Legion is the person who can absolutely be in control of his environment. Like there's no in between for him. More like borderline personality than even schizophrenia or DID is what I want to see in this character.
Because the other part to this that we really haven't touched on yet is that somebody's tinkering with his memories. Mm-hmm.
And that is an interesting part.
And we haven't gotten to that yet. There's a lot going on here that we haven't, we barely have scratched the surface of. And what my really big hope is that he turns into just a big bad at the end of this.
And it's going to be Sid that brings him down. And I also want to find out that there's a little something up with Lenny. Like I would love the twist to be that Lenny is just like a psychic form that his I don't know, that some other manipulative mutant is using to control him.
For a while there, I thought it was only going to be in his head, but she did mention, I killed your friend, so I think that kind of negates that theory that I had.
And the other thing about this show that I'm really hoping for is that his mental illness isn't brought on by his powers. I'm hoping that they're 2 separate things altogether.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's got to be. You know what I mean? It's got to be.
I my guess is that that's pretty much it, because I mean they did basically go like, look, bro, you ain't got schizophrenia, you got mutant.
Yeah.
So I think they'll pretty much steer clear of that if I was to guess.
I think he's just a neurotic person that people don't believe his stories about telekinesis, but also we're living in a world where mutants exist, so why wouldn't they believe him? They're trying to play 2 sides of the game, and you kind of have to go one way with it or the other. Well, he's either a magical person in a normal world or a normal person in a magical world. He can't be both.
Well, they exist, right. But how much? And you correct me if I may have missed it. How much of the rest of the world knows of their existence?
Well, it depends on what kind of canon they're following.
That's
because
what I'm
every
saying.
other week we're getting a different statement. It is in universe. It's not in universe. So I don't know, but I don't think he's the first mutant.
Well, he's not because
obviously he's not.
Well, they mentioned other mutants before. Like he seems to be the most powerful mutant that we've ever found. But I mean, like outside of that, I don't know that anyone. I could be wrong, but I don't know that anyone else really knows mutants. Period. I could be wrong.
I feel like there has to have been some kind of disaster so that there are some folks out there that know.
Well, also when they were explaining his power set, and the guy throws around the word mutant around like they've been around for a while.
Yeah, you're right. He
Yeah.
kind of doesn't really flinch at that as much as you probably would if they didn't. That's a good point.
But if they're telling us the story of a special person in a special world, then that just doesn't work, And I feel like that's what they're trying to do is say, this is a special person, but at the same time, the world is special, so he's not really so special. You have to do the normal person in a special world, special person in a normal world. You can't kind of play both sides of the coin where everybody thinks he's crazy because he has mutant powers. Oh, by the way, here's a whole team of mutants that just came to rescue you.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to play it more like he's a fish out of water.
Yeah, that's what I think they're trying to do, but it suddenly starts to lose some of its edge when they introduce if this is Carrie, if this is like Carrie, where he is the sole person with this power on Earth, this becomes a much more interesting story to me.
But we already know that isn't the case with this show because you have the guy who can wave his hand and people fly away.
Yeah.
And
right, that's exactly what I said. They set it up to feel one way and then it goes another.
Oh, I see.
And I think they need to take it where he is legitimately mentally ill, and what scares him is because he is a mutant with this power and his brain is unstable, much like how the comic book dealt with Legion. I think that's more interesting. But what I'm feeling from these first 2 episodes is nobody believes he has power, so therefore he must be crazy.
Man, I hope you're right. I hope the first thing is the right way. I hope that's the way they do it.
And I think interesting mutant skills that we kind of haven't also seen before as well. I forget the character's name, but the black guy, that mutant character, his kind of like weird dream mutant power, so to speak.
He's a memory artist, much like I was once a sandwich artist. He is a memory artist. I was totally freelance. I was just hanging out in front of Subway trying to sell PB&Js to people going by.
This is my blue period.
I'm totally punk rock. I do my podcast without any gatekeepers. That's the same way I did my sandwich art. I was just on the streets saying, give me $1. Come on, forget those $5 footlongs. I got a square for $1.
Hey, you're nothing if not an artist. That's what we know. Now, before we get down to the actual review of this thing, we've got to figure out how this television program relates back to the only man in Hollywood that we could ever want to do this with, Mr. Sylvester Stallone.
Hey, thanks, Adam. I happen to have a prepared statement right here.
Oh.
Max Matsuoka is this week's Stallone connection. He worked as the props buyer on Legion, and he was the assistant prop master on Stallone's direct-to-video movie, I See You. But what I would like to talk about this week is a movie universe that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Yes, the X-Men universe is a complicated one with alternate timelines, standalones, and taught nerds like myself the idea of string theory, while the Marvel universe is more of a clockwork universe where everything fits, including the Netflix series and various other TV shows that surround the movie franchise, while the DC universe is an abject lesson on what you should never ever do. It's getting to the point with DC now that it feels like Marvel's making Transformers while DC is in the GoBots area, or maybe even the Mighty Orbots for that deep cut fan. But the universe that doesn't get nearly enough attention has 14 movies, 2 Christmas spin-offs, and hop genres long before Marvel ever thought of doing it, and has not stopped going since its origin in 1997. And I, of course, am talking about the Air Buddies franchise. Now, the reason why I bring this all up is because Max Matsuoka was the assistant prop master on 2013 Super Buddies, a film about some adorable puppies who end up finding some rings that give them superpowers. The big name in Super Buddies? John Ratzenberger, who gives a stellar performance as Marvin Gramps Livingstone. He's not the only big star to appear in the Air Buddies franchise. Bill Cobbs is in the original Air Bud. Tim Conway's in Air Bud Golden Receiver and Treasure Buddies. You got Jim Belushi in Snow Buddies. Diedrich Bader in both Space Buddies and Spooky Buddies. And if you figured out the only reason why I'm listing all these actors is so I can say the name of these Air Buddies movies, you would be correct. But by far, my favorite thing about these movies is the IMDb user reviews. People have very, very strong opinions about Air Buddies. And if you're ever bored, do yourself a favor and check some of them out. I got lost in an internet hole for about an hour reading them, and that was an hour I did not have. My favorite user review for Super Buddies comes from someone who has a username that's probably their actual real name, so I won't mention it. But she writes, it is a, quote, family-friendly, unquote, movie, and the fact that it contains no bad language, violence, adult themes, or actual violence. My 6-year-old niece loves it because it has adorable little puppies. However, one thing did annoy me very much. It was rather sexist. There was only one. I'm trying not to laugh, but I can't help it. It's so funny. However, one thing did annoy me very much. It was rather sexist. There was only one strong female character, and she's the victim of a stereotypical hyper-feminine personality. Personally, if I had daughters, I would not let them watch this movie. There are several strong male characters with their own personalities, but the female is, of course, stereotypical. The writers could not have been more shallow and two-dimensional. Find another movie like Ponyo, smiley face.
Now,
Hey,
I know
lady.
you want to do it. I'm sorry.
Hey, lady, that axe you're grinding no longer has a blade to it. I love this review so much, I'm thinking about printing it out and framing it. And for the record, one of the two writers of Super Buddies is Anna McRoberts, who has written over 17 animal-based movies, including Santa Buddies and Santa Paws, which are both in the Air Buddies universe. So maybe this user reviewer can IM her and school her on what it takes to make a non-sexist movie about dogs with superpowers. And there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. Now, Butterball and Mudbud, let's review Legion so I can binge all 14 Air Buddies movies, which will take roughly 2 days. 2 glorious days.
I bet that lady had a hand in the script of a movie my family likes called Russellmania, about a Jack Russell Terrier who goes and joins the World Wrestling Entertainment League or whatever.
I heard of that, man, where they're just like, it's one of the many things, just like the Airbud things, where, but there's no thing in the rule book that says a dog can't wrestle.
And here's the kicker: John Ratzenberger also in that movie.
Hey, I always go on to the animal things. It's it's a living. I get paid a little bit of money. It's fun.
And the Jack Russell Terrier, and it's all live action, no animation. The Jack Russell Terrier's manager is this monkey that sounds strangely like Burgess Meredith when I watched it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, that's stereotypical. It's stereotypical, man. That's how you go. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't want to go any further. All right, let's get down to it, boys. By the way, if we get to $200 on Patreon, we'll review Super Buddies. Just saying.
And I just got to throw this in. Complaining that Super Buddies lacks a strong female character is like complaining that Natural Light beer is low on vitamin C. I mean, you just got to understand what you're getting when you buy certain products.
Yeah.
So I've got breaking news. Breaking news, everybody. We need like a or something like that. Actually, what'd be great is the old MTV News. Boom, 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 boom. Like that would be great.
I'm going to insert it right here.
Yeah, Anna McRoberts has nothing to do with WrestleMania. However, she is the executive producer of its sequel called Russell Madness.
Oh, I got to see that.
Mm-hmm.
How many more WWE references can you put? They're like, oh, we got a lot. We got Russell Slam.
and not only is the Jack Russell in it, but he's got a little monkey trainer.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Why
That's
would
the
he
Burgess
not?
Meredith character I mentioned.
Oh, very good.
And Burgess Meredith as the monkey trainer. God, I love America. All right, let's get down to it. Here on HMP, we have our official patented Robin rating system. If you want to check out what that consists of, head on down to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the page. Bruce, where do the first 2 episodes of Legion on FX fall in the Robin rating system for you, sir?
Hard for me to rate it because I'm just not sure how to put this. I think it's pretty good. I really think it's well made. I think it's well acted. I think it's well shot and sounds good, even though they did borrow in one scene very heavily from the Stranger Things score. But overall, I just didn't enjoy it personally. So it's like I'm of two minds on this show, and that pun is absolutely intended, back to the Legion dissociative identity disorder thing. But I'm glad that there are people out there that enjoy it. Good for them. I'm very happy for you guys that you enjoyed it, but I'm unlikely to continue watching it until the season is done, and I might see, if I can hammer through it. But it's going to be hard for me to sustain a week-to-week relationship with this. I'm going to give it a Damian Wayne. I'll probably catch some heat for that, but it's one of those things. I can acknowledge the talent and everything that went into it. It's somebody makes a really, really good plate of some food that I just don't like. I'm not going to like the food.
Well, clearly you're a monster of a human being. Keenan?
Okay, so Bruce, first of all, you were totally entitled to your opinion. I totally get it. I still respect you and love you dearly. It's like the tagline for the movie Russell Madness. The strongest tag team is family.
That is also the same tagline for Fast and Furious 7.
That's true. I am giving this a Dick Grayson. This is by far, not even close, the best superhero thing on TV besides the Netflix shows. This is my favorite new thing I've seen. I cannot wait to go further with it.
I'm not even comparing it to superhero stuff. I'm comparing it to things like Outcast because it has that otherworldly feeling to it.
Oh,
I think it's on that. Yeah, I like Outcast better. I'll say that. But I think this is
slide
on that
dog.
level.
You slide down, bringing it Outcast. I see what you're doing, and I love it. But I'm giving it a Dick Grayson. No regrets, Dick Grayson.
Very interesting. Just because it's 2 episodes, and I'm always a little bit hesitant on the kind of first stuff here, but I fall definitely more on the Keenan Camp side of this, no doubt. I think it is a beautiful looking show. Like we said, this bodes really well for the Y the Last Man because it feels like they're really throwing some nice budget at this, making sure this looks very cinematic, very good. Doesn't feel like a cheap, crummy television show, which is fantastic. By the way, if you have the means, listen to this thing in 5.1. Really good sounding. So definitely suggest that. But yeah, I really like this show. I'm going Tim Drake for right now. But I definitely, if it keeps going in this same direction, I could easily see this bumping up to a Dick Grayson. Easily. But time will tell. And so, while it may not be on your list of big things, Bruce, will you commit here and now in front of God and all the HMPers? Will you do us a season ender? Because I know I'm going to watch the rest of this. It sounds like Sean is. Will you watch the rest?
If FX makes it easy for me to stream it and watch it, I'll do it.
We'll make that happen. We can make that happen. So that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, now, we fell back on some stuff because I've been trying to, procure a job. So our Patreon thing will be off. We didn't have you guys vote this month. That is my bad. May a couple. We'll make it up to you. Don't worry. Keep on the site there, and you'll see what's coming down. Patreon.com/HMP. Thank you guys so very much. But next week we're gonna cover something that I think maybe they would have voted on anyways, because it's been a while since we've done anything of the super monumental size, something that kind of changed the landscape, if you will, of comic book movies. And we're going back to the original Joss Whedon Avengers. It's been some time, man.
Oh, yeah, but I can't wait because this is one of 2 superhero movies that I hold up as like the reference image of what good superhero movies should be like. So I can't wait.
And I'm waiting
when I
because
heard
it's
you
been a while.
describing it and you said it changed the superhero landscape, I could have sworn you were going to say Underdog.
Underdog. Underdog. With
Jason
the voice of
Lee,
Jason
you gotta
Lee.
love him.
Again,
Written and directed by Ann Richards. Was that her name?
I think it was Anne Rice. I think she came back and directed it.
So it was super descriptive and boring.
Yeah. Boom. Guy, we're coming after you, Anne Rice and Underdog.
Take it.
I can't wait till they make Underbuddies. That's what I'm waiting for.
Ooh, hey, don't say things that might come true, Bruce. You don't want to jinx it. don't want to jinx it.
Anna Roberts is still working, buddy.
Yeah, she's probably made more money than all of us combined times 3. Those Buddies movies clearly sell. So we'll be talking about Avengers next week. That is all. Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
Just want to remind everybody once again, finish the show how we started it. That audiobook for Dragon and the Needles is up, and you can hear me desperately try to do voices, have a laugh at me. You might just enjoy the story as well. Best part, like I said, you can get it for free with an Audible free trial. Just audible.com. Try now. If you already belong to Audible, use one of your credits, man. Show me some love. So kaboom. Everybody wins on that one. It's also on iTunes, but I can't help you out there.
Yeah. And for me, it was always like when every now and then you'll have a couple of credits stack up on Audible, and then you're like, well, what am I going to get? This is like a no-brainer, man. Keenan, what do you got?
Absolutely.
I think Sean's dead.
No, I'm here.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Maybe you didn't hear me. Go ahead.
I did not hear you. You can reach me at Hero Movie Sean or listen to my new podcast, Pod Buddies. It's all about the Air Buddies movies. We review each one standalone. We start from the beginning with Air Buds, so it's easy to catch up. The universe does have
you laugh, but
to it.
that sounds
You
like
joke,
something the
Sean.
McElroys would do, doesn't it?
Yeah, you joke, Sean, but right now, if Bubba Weed is listening, he's sending you an email wanting to be your co-host.
For Pod Buddies.
He has sat through more ridiculous movies than we've ever dreamed of.
Oh, God bless that man. He's a trooper, I'll tell you that. And, of course, my other podcast, The Film Find, thefilmfind.com. We figured out a way that we're going to be able to do every week. We figured it out. We've cracked the code and stuff. So a slightly new format over at the Film Find, but a lot of the stuff that you used to love, and some new stuff in there as well. So keep an eye out on that. For example, this coming week we're going to have a 30-minute episode dedicated exclusively, I kid you not, to Throw Mama from a Train. That's an absolute thing that we did. So we'll be doing that, and of course, new reviews coming out the week after that, and so on. And of course, now, as I said at the top of the show, Nerd Talk now had a week hiatus, which is fine. Got me a little bit. It's getting me out into the work world, so that's a good thing. But I'm gonna be back doing live shows and everything that will be coming out on your iTunes feed or Facebook.com/Nerd Talk now, and you can watch the video or listen to the audio or what have you. It's all good and it's all there. That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Till next week when we cover Avengers. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
She's like a rainbow, comic colors in the air, everywhere. She comes in